I grew up on a big farm that was owned by my family, who worked as farmers for generations. Much to the detriment of my parents, I hated farm life from a very young age. I never liked dirt or grime, and farm animals were also never my thing. So to no one's surprise, I left the farm when I turned 18 and never looked back. I currently live in a big city. I still love my family very much and visit the farm from time to time, but I'm always the happiest when I return to my urban lifestyle. My mother passed away 3 years ago, and 2 months ago, I unexpectedly lost my father due to a work accident. This left my younger brother Tom, who is 30 years old, and me as the sole beneficiaries of their estate. I didn't expect to be left with much, since my parents helped me out financially more than enough times while they were still alive. I honestly only wanted a couple of family trinkets and heirlooms to keep as keepsakes, but to my surprise, as my brother and I sat down with the attorney to discuss our father's will, we discovered that I was left with the majority of the farm, about 3/4, while Tom was left with the rest. The only reason I can fathom behind this decision is that, unlike Tom, I have 2 children, a 10-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter, so maybe that's why I was given the bigger share? But I'm not entirely sure since my children had their own inheritance in the will. Either way, this split of inheritance was unreasonable, since unlike me, Tom actually lived on the farm and dedicated his entire life to working on it alongside our parents. I saw that Tom was also shaken up by the decision, so I reassured him that I found it absurd as well, and I didn't mind forfeiting the land to him. Tom said I didn't have to do that, but I insisted. After some back and forth on the topic, we mutually agreed to settle this between ourselves on a later date when everything would be transferred under our names as our parents intended. I recently informed my wife, Jules, who is 35 years old, of my decision regarding my inheritance, and she is furious with me for wanting to give most of it up. She is arguing that my decision is impulsive and short-sighted since the farmland is worth a fortune, and I'm just giving it away without a second thought. I told her that the land is worth a fortune only for those who actually intend on doing something with it, and since I neither intend to sell it nor farm on it, it's effectively useless to me. Jules continued to say that it might be useless to me, but I should think about our children who might one day want to start farming. I told her that in that case, I'll transfer only half of the land to Tom so our children could have a quarter of the land at their disposal in the hypothetical scenario that they get into farming one day. Now, Jules is not speaking with me until I reconsider my decision. I need to hear some unbiased opinions to see if I'm in the wrong here. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I am in the same boat with a family business. My sister and I didn't have anything to do with it while growing up. All my brother ever wanted was to own it and work with our dad. I work there now too, but that doesn't change anything. My brother has dedicated his entire life to this business. It's his. Not one penny should go to my sister or me. We have joked around that if for some odd reason our father leaves any part of it to my sister or me, that our share will cost him 1 to 2 bottles of our favorite alcohol. But that business is, just like that farm is your brother's. Your wife is being greedy. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your wife is the actual antagonist and way out of line. She's being greedy and she gets no vote. It wasn't left to her. Ask her if she's looking forward to paying monumental property tax on land you don't want or need. Your poor brother. Does she expect you to sell it out from under him? You are a good man and a good brother. What's the likelihood that kids raised in the city are suddenly going to want the manual labor life of a farmer? It's no picnic. Now for the update. The day after the fight, I wake up to an empty side of the bed, like totally empty. My wife Jules had bailed on me and stayed at her sister's place. Not exactly the best way to start the day. I feel like I'm living in a bad soap opera, so I'm just trying to keep it together here. I get a text from my younger brother Tom asking to meet up at the farm to talk about our parents' estate. Yeah, great, just what I need right now. The guy probably hates me after our last talk. I make the drive to the farm feeling super stressed about the land. I mean, what the heck am I going to do with it? Tom's already there when I pull up. I see him just staring out at the fields and looking all kinds of anxious. I mean, he's not exactly Mr. Sunshine today. We sit on the porch and start talking about the will. He's like, I feel so overwhelmed with all this responsibility. And I'm just sitting there like, well, I get it, bro. But I got my own stuff going on too. So I mentioned my plan to give him most of my share, and he's all hesitant about it. Like, come on, man. This is your chance to own a piece of the family land. Then he drops this huge news on me. He's thinking about selling the farm to pay off some debts that piled up after our dad passed. I'm like, wait, what? The farm means more to you than you let on, huh? So, we're sitting there processing this, when all of a sudden, we hear this loud engine. It's our cousin Mike pulling up in his truck. And let me tell you, it's unusual for him to just stop by like this. He casually mentions he's thinking about moving back to the area and asks about our plans for the farm. Tom's like on edge because he remembers how Mike used to be all up in our business about farm disputes. I feel the awkwardness hanging in the air, so I suggest we all sit down for a family dinner to figure this out. That evening, we set up a makeshift dinner outside with burgers and salads. We're trying to keep things light, but the atmosphere is anything but. During dinner, Mike brings up this idea of turning the farm into a community space, and I'm just like, whoa, where did that come from? Tom snaps at Mike, saying he has no right to suggest changes when we haven't even figured things out ourselves. I'm like, whoa there, let's not escalate this. But my attempt to mediate only makes things worse. After dinner, Mike pulls me aside to talk about his plans for the farm. He's hinting at having investors back him up, and I'm like, this could be something, you know? But Tom overhears part of our conversation and gets all upset with me for even entertaining Mike's ideas. I try explaining that we need options, but he's not having it. So he storms off into the fields, and I'm left standing there feeling super stressed. Later that night, I get a call from Jules. She's calmed down a bit and wants to talk about the whole farm situation. We agree to meet up for breakfast the next morning to talk things through. At breakfast, she suggests we visit a land use consultant to explore what we can actually do with the farm. I think it's a solid idea, and we decide to invite Tom to join us for the meeting. After breakfast, I call Tom to discuss the plan. He's all reluctant, but agrees to come along. The meeting with the consultant is set for later that week at this local diner known for its breakfast specials. On the day of the meeting, Tom shows up looking a bit more open-minded. I think the pressure of the situation is starting to get to him. The consultant really helps us understand our options for the farm. We talk about leasing it out, developing part of it, or just farming it. Each option has its pros and cons, and it's good to have a productive discussion for once. I propose that we could co-manage the farm with clear agreements on responsibilities, and Tom's cool with that. Then he suggests we keep part of the land for his future kids, but also look into selling a portion for development. Jules is all in on the plan, and we're feeling pretty good about things. We celebrate with a dinner at the diner, and it feels like a huge relief. We agree to meet regularly to talk about the farm's progress, and I'm just hoping we can keep this communication going. Mini update. Tom agreed to my plan for co-managing the farm. We're selling some land for development and keeping part for his future kids. Am I the idiot for telling my husband to choose between me and his overbearing family? I took a beach vacation with my husband and our 3 kids, aged 4 years, 2 years, and 3 months. We also invited his sister, her husband, and their 2 kids, aged 4 years and 3 years, as we had a detached bedroom from the main house, and we genuinely like hanging out with them. I told her we wanted to keep it small this year since we have a new baby. I'm pretty fresh postpartum, and I didn't want it to be too stressful. While we were at the beach, we saw my mother-in-law, father-in-law, stepson, who is 20 years old, and his girlfriend pull up. This is a 3-hour drive from where we live. They came to surprise us at the beach, since we haven't seen my stepson in 2 months. My sister-in-law said they've been planning this for weeks, and she gave them the mile marker. This was a cool surprise, but afterward they expected to stay with us in our 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom rental house with no real doors, only sliding doors. They had no plans for lodging or eating, so we got to work to make dinner, which was fine because I had packed extra food. Due to space constraints, I put the baby down for a nap in the restroom. We had 2 pack-and-plays in there. When I went back to check on him a little later, my stepson and his girlfriend were in the transparent glass shower together, just steps away from my 3-month-old baby. I went back to the kitchen and told my sister-in-law they could not stay with us. My husband told them they could because he is out of touch with what that would actually mean. 6 adults and 2 toddlers sharing one restroom where 2 babies are sleeping. I told her what I just saw with my stepson and his girlfriend in the shower, again reminding her it's too many people going in and out of the restroom with 2 kids asleep in there. She understood and started looking up hotels. My stepson's girlfriend was already scoping out the couch, and she could have slept there. But after wrestling 2 babies to sleep in the restroom and my 4-year-old to sleep in the actual bed, the couch was the only place I could sit and enjoy a glass of wine at the end of the night in peace. After getting a hotel room, they stayed at the beach house until midnight, playing poker on the patio and shouting. My husband asked his dad to please be quiet since the kids were sleeping, and my father-in-law loudly shouted, "Shut up," and kept playing. Now for an update. This has since caused major conflict with my husband, as he believes we should have just let 4 additional people stay since they are family. We paid for half the hotel room, and my sister-in-law paid the other half. For context, we have been to the beach one other time with my sister-in-law last year, but we have never been with my mother-in-law and father-in-law. My stepson has been gone for 2 months, but will be in town the next 3 weeks, so it's not like we wouldn't have seen him the next day when we returned. I understand they wanted this to be a fun surprise, but no one considered how this would impact us as a family, traveling with 3 small children in a relatively small beach house. Am I the jerk for making my in-laws stay in a hotel after they surprised us on our family vacation? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. No way, this is so rude and really stressful. You need to put an end to all this now. My aunt, uncle, and cousins did this to my parents for years. They would show up with their family of 5 for Thanksgiving as a surprise, and my mom would scramble to get extra food, American for the cousins, and our ethnic food for the parents. It was a nightmare, but they never said anything because it was awkward, and it went on for 30 years. Say no now, or all your future vacations will be ruined. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Rude of them and rude of the sister-in-law to have planned it or okayed it without thinking through the logistics. I wouldn't be planning any more combined holidays with the sister-in-law. And rude of your husband to think it was no big deal. Suggests that you're the primary kid wrangler, and this didn't really affect him as much, which makes it worse. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll update. Now, for the update. My family and I got back from the beach vacation a few days ago. Yeah, the one where the in-laws showed up unannounced and caused chaos. A real blast. Anyway, my husband thought it would be a good idea to host a dinner to make up with his parents. I was feeling uneasy about it, but he insisted that they should be welcomed back into our home. We needed to talk things out, he said. So, I spent the whole day cleaning and cooking a big meal. I mean, it was a lot of work. I wanted it to be perfect, even though I was a little worried about them being in our house again. The kids were super excited to see their grandparents again, which put a lot of pressure on me. I didn't want to ruin their excitement, but I also didn't want to deal with my in-laws after everything that happened at the beach. So, they showed up early, catching me off guard while I was still prepping. I wasn't even dressed properly yet. The first thing my father-in-law did was criticize the dinner preparations, saying it looked unappetizing. I was shocked, but I tried to stay calm. Then my mother-in-law chimed in, suggesting I should have made something fancier. Like, come on. My husband defended me, saying we were all tired and just wanted a simple meal. I could have hugged him right then and there. Dinner started, and the atmosphere was just awkward. My father-in-law continued to make snide remarks throughout the meal. The kids tried to lighten the mood with some jokes, but it didn't help. I just focused on my children, ignoring the comments from my in-laws. After dinner, they insisted on playing card games in the living room. I thought it would be fine, But then my mother-in-law began to criticize my parenting style in front of the kids. I was done. My husband asked his parents to tone it down, but my father-in-law just laughed it off. I snapped and told them to leave if they couldn't respect my home. My husband looked shocked and didn't say anything in response. They left the house, arguing with my husband about my behavior. The kids were confused about the sudden departure of their grandparents, which broke my heart. My husband confronted me, saying I overreacted and embarrassed him. The next day, his attitude shifted and he became distant. The following weekend, he went to his parents' house without me. He returned home late that night, avoiding any conversation about the visit. A few days later, he announced he would be spending more time with his parents. The kids noticed the strain between us and asked why their dad was spending so much time away. Eventually, he admitted he felt caught in the middle between me and his parents. I suggested family therapy, but he refused, saying he didn't want to drag others into it. Friends began to notice the strain and asked if everything was all right between us. It was getting hard to hide it. He then announced he was taking the kids to visit his parents for a weekend. I stayed home because I thought it was for the best. Well, when they returned, the kids were distant, having enjoyed their time with their grandparents. My husband claimed the kids needed more time with their grandparents, but didn't address me directly. I've just been feeling so lost and alone in this situation. Mini update. My husband and I discussed our issues after the kids went to bed. He admitted he felt overwhelmed and didn't expect the visit to escalate like it did. Am I the idiot for kicking my parents out on Christmas Day for refusing to apologize to my husband? I, a 27-year-old female, met my husband Jamie, a 27-year-old male, in high school. He was the boy with the bad reputation for foolish activities, and by foolish activities, I mean not stuff he did, but stuff he didn't do, like going home or having an adult around him. His mom was an addict who didn't let him come home before midnight on any given night, so he'd spend his time in different places, which made adults think poorly of him. By the time people realized it was because he had a difficult mother, they judged him for her actions. My parents were some of those judgmental people. They'd see him out past dark and make comments. They were awful when Jamie and I started dating. I told them they considered themselves Christian and should be more understanding and welcoming of someone who didn't have a good home life. They'd say he wasn't trying, like he could do anything about his mom. They judged him for not going to college. They deemed him lazy for not going, even though he held a job until he was 14, and with the help of the couple he'd worked for, went to trade school. My parents were so disrespectful about it all that we didn't talk for a whole year. Then they reached out via my siblings to apologize to me, and they appeared to accept Jamie and realized they had been wrong about him. Jamie always got along with my siblings. But he started to get along with my parents too, and it was nice. We got married 2 years ago, and we welcomed our first baby together in June. Last month, we had a big fight. They showed that they kept their opinions to themselves for this long, but they never saw Jamie as a good person. They always saw him as trash. And it all started because Jamie was alone with the baby for an entire day, and they were horrified I trusted him to watch our child without me there. They spewed such hateful things about Jamie that aren't true. He's an amazing dad and husband. He's not his mother. He has never been in trouble with the law. So the fact they spoke about him like he was some criminal, I was so angry. I kicked him out and told them I was done with them. We're still on good terms with my siblings, which is where this post is taking us. We started talking about Christmas, and Jamie and I said we'd host them. My mom was trying to get my siblings to ask me if I'd come to Christmas dinner at their house with the baby. One sibling said Jamie and I were hosting. Upon learning that, my mom took said sibling's phone and called me, asking how I could leave them uninvited. I told her if they ever want to be invited to anything again, they will truly reflect on their actions and words and make a real and heartfelt apology to Jamie. But that is the only way, and it has to be real and addressed to him and not me. I then hung up on my mom. Now for an update. My parents are claiming I'm trying to blackmail them, which I don't think they truly know what that means. A text, I assume, is from my mom. accused me of being disrespectful to my parents and saying I can't demand an apology. Am I the jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the a-hole. They are right that you can't demand an apology because then it would not be genuine. However, you can ask for one and put stipulations on it like you did. The ball is in their court and they have chosen to be petty, so just keep on the way you are. Either it will stay the same with no contact, or they will realize they have made judgments against their religion full of bias and apologize appropriately. Don't count on the apology. Comment 2. My parents are now claiming I'm trying to blackmail them, which I don't think they truly know what that means. You're completely correct. They are equating blackmail with atonement here, and a text saying you can't demand an apology. This is one of the wildest things I've ever heard, to be honest. Not the a-hole. I'm glad you and Jamie have each other and that your siblings have come around. You're making all the right calls here. Now for the update. I'm not sure what to do. I stood my ground, but now it feels like I've lost even more. Update on the situation with my parents and Christmas. The day after the whole drama with my parents, I got a text from my mom asking if we could talk. I was like, yeah, we could talk, but only after you apologize to Jamie like a decent human being. She didn't take that so well. She sent me this long text saying how hurt she was and claiming that I'm the one tearing the family apart. I just ignored it and focused on planning the Christmas dinner with Jamie. She could go cry about it to my dad. That's what he was there for. Jamie suggested that we invite his parents over for Christmas. He said he wanted to show my family what a supportive family looks like. I couldn't help but laugh at that one. But seriously, I agreed because I thought it might help bridge the gap between my parents and us. On the day of the Christmas dinner, Jamie's parents came over early to help set up. They brought over some homemade dishes, and it honestly made me feel so grateful for their support. The atmosphere was just so warm and inviting as we decorated the house together. It felt like a real family. Just as we were finishing up, I got another text from my mom asking if they could come over for a quick visit. I rolled my eyes so hard that I thought I might go blind. I let Jamie know about the text, and he said we should just face it together. I nodded in agreement, but I was honestly freaking out inside. I loved Jamie, but part of me was terrified that this whole thing would blow up in our faces. Jamie's parents helped me prepare a large feast, and we filled the kitchen with all these delicious smells. It was just a perfect moment, you know? Then, right before dinner, I got a call from my sister, and she told me that our parents were on their way over. I told Jamie about the call, and he suggested we all just face it together. When my parents arrived, my mom immediately tried to take control of the kitchen. I pretty much had to stand my ground and remind her that we have it all handled. Jamie's parents offered a warm greeting, trying to ease the tension, but my dad was just a total jerk. He made this snide remark under his breath about Jamie's cooking skills. Jamie heard it and tensed up, but I squeezed his hand for support, and he relaxed a little. The dinner started, and we all sat around the table, trying to keep things civil. My mom made a toast, but it felt so forced and uncomfortable. Like, can you even call that a toast? During the meal, my dad brought up Jamie's past, and it made everything so awkward. I quickly changed the subject to our baby because I wanted to keep the focus positive. My mom rolled her eyes at that and acted all skeptical that Jamie could be a good dad. I just lost it at that point. I demanded that my parents apologize directly to Jamie. They were so angry and called me unreasonable, saying they were just concerned. Jamie stood up and said he deserved respect as a father. That's when my mom accused him of manipulating me. It led to this heated exchange that I honestly never wanted to happen in my own home. I had enough, though. I told my parents they could leave if they couldn't accept Jamie. They stormed out, yelling that they wouldn't be disrespected in their own home. It was a lot, you know? But Jamie hugged me tightly afterward, and I could see how proud he was of me for standing up for him. We sat down again with Jamie's parents, who were still there, and shared a lighthearted moment. Then, I sent a final text to my parents, saying they need to apologize sincerely to Jamie before any talk of reconciliation. We closed the evening with Jamie's family, filled with laughter and warmth. We even agreed to spend New Year's together, focusing on building a stronger bond. I don't know where things will go from here with my parents. They haven't responded to my last text, and I'm not sure if I really care. Edit. My parents haven't reached out since I sent that last text. They haven't even acknowledged any of my recent messages. I still think they owe Jamie a sincere apology. I'm not asking for much, just that they acknowledge their hurtful words and apologize. People have suggested I should apologize to them for my behavior. I'm not sure about that. I don't think I did anything wrong by standing up for Jamie. Others have said I should just take my baby and go visit my parents. That's not happening. Jamie is my family now, and I'm not leaving him behind. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.